Get ready for a deep dive into the prophecies of Revelation. In this video, we explore the prophetic significance of the Euphrates River, the release of demonic forces, and the severe divine judgment during the end times. Don't miss any detail of this powerful revelation, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with all our biblical analyses. Imagine yourself transported to a dark and mysterious future, a time that many fear and others await with reverence. The book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, presents us with a scenario where time, as we know it, comes to an end. And in Revelation 9, one of the most enigmatic and terrifying chapters, a powerful prophecy unfolds, centered on an ancient and sacred river, the Euphrates River. This river, which since the time of Adam and Eve has served as both a physical and spiritual boundary, becomes the stage for a release that will change the fate of the world. During the period of tribulation, when the earth is already plunged into chaos and despair, the Euphrates dries up, a prophetic sign marking the beginning of something even more dreadful. At this moment, demonic forces, held captive for ages, are unleashed upon the earth. These demons, relentless and thirsty for destruction, symbolize the reality of spiritual warfare, an invisible battle that intensifies as the end of times approaches. They are instruments of God's judgment, sent to torment those who do not have divine protection. It is a time of anguish and terror, where the very essence of evil is unleashed to play its part in God's grand plan. But why the Euphrates River? This river is not just a watercourse, but a prophetic and spiritual landmark that has been part of biblical narratives since the beginning of humanity. Now, in the end times, it becomes the channel through which divine justice is poured out upon the world. Revelation 9 reveals to us that these events are not mere random punishments, but carefully orchestrated parts of a judgment that is in harmony with God's plan. As these demons are released, the world witnesses the inescapable reality of spiritual warfare. For those without God's protection, it is a time of torment, of facing forces they never imagined were real. For others, it is the confirmation of what the scriptures have always taught, that the end times will bring not only physical destruction but also a definitive spiritual confrontation between good and evil. This is only the beginning of what Revelation 9 has to reveal. God's judgment is severe but just, and through the drying up of the Euphrates River, He shows us that every event has a purpose, every suffering a meaning. It is a message of warning and hope, depending on how we choose to position ourselves in the face of the imminent end times. And so, the forces of evil that have long been confined begin to emerge, revealing the true extent of the dark power that exists beyond our visible world. These demons, whose existence is often relegated to myth and superstition, now become an undeniable and terrifying reality. In the context of biblical prophecies, these beings are not mere evil entities, but agents of God's judgment, sent to fulfill a specific purpose in the last days. The spiritual warfare they unleash is not just a struggle between good and evil in physical terms, but a deep confrontation that shakes the very foundations of the human soul. As these demons are released, the world becomes a spiritual battlefield. Those without God's protection find themselves vulnerable to unimaginable torments. It is a time when reality and the supernatural intertwine inseparably, where terror is not limited to what the eyes can see but extends to the invisible realm of spirits. Spiritual warfare, always present but often ignored, now manifests in a brutal and relentless way. These demons, in their fury, attack minds, bodies, and souls, seeking to devour everything in their path. They are the embodiment of chaos, fear, and destruction, and their goal is clear: to bring the greatest possible suffering to earth, showing everyone the gravity of being outside God's grace. But for those who have faith, who remain steadfast in divine protection, this period is also a test of their spiritual resilience. Though the world around them crumbles, they are called to resist, not to succumb to the dread these demonic forces seek to instill. Spiritual warfare is not only about defeating evil but also about preserving faith amid the deepest darkness. And so, the torment brought by these demons spreads, marking the beginning of an era of suffering that will serve as a precursor to the final judgment. The The spiritual battles that unfold are a reminder that what is at stake is more than earthly life. It is the eternity of the soul. And in the end, each individual will be called to choose their side, to take a stand in the war that will define the final destiny of humanity. As the torment intensifies and spiritual warfare reaches its peak, an unmistakable sign appears on the horizon. The Euphrates River, once one of the great rivers in human history, begins to dry up. To many, this may seem like just another natural disaster in a world already shaken by calamities. However, for those who understand biblical prophecies, this event is far more than a geological phenomenon. The drying up of the Euphrates River is no mere coincidence. It is a prophetic milestone signaling that the final stages of God's plan are underway. This river, which has been intertwined with human history and biblical narratives since the beginning of time, now assumes a central role in the conclusion of the ages. The Euphrates, which once marked the boundary between the Garden of Eden and the outside world, and which served as a dividing line between nations and empires, now reveals itself as a demarcation line between the present and what is to come. Its drying up prepares the way for the forces of evil to advance, but it also makes room for divine intervention to manifest definitively. This event is a preparation, a deliberate act that sets the stage for the execution of God's final judgments. It is as if the river itself, as its waters recede, is revealing what has been hidden for centuries, the truth of the impending judgment, the certainty that the time of divine patience is coming to an end. The role of the Euphrates River in biblical prophecy is dual. It is both a symbol of judgment and an instrument of divine intervention. Its drying not only allows the forces of evil to advance, but also signals the nearness of ultimate deliverance for those who remain faithful. It is a solemn reminder that, in God's grand design, nothing happens by chance, and every event is intrinsically linked to the fulfillment of His perfect plan. As the Euphrates dries up, the world is forced to confront the reality that the final stages of God's plan are in motion. There is no more time to ignore the signs or underestimate the significance of the prophecies. The time of judgment is near, and with it, the promise of a new era where evil will finally be defeated and divine justice will prevail. With the Euphrates River now dry, what was once hidden in its depths finally comes to light. For angels, held captive for centuries, waiting for the moment appointed by God, are released. These are not ordinary angels, but powerful agents of divine judgment, tasked with a terrifying mission: to bring death and destruction to the earth. These 4 angels of destruction, upon being released, reveal the severity of God's plan for the end times. Each of them is responsible for a specific part of the judgment, and together, they unleash unprecedented devastation. A third of humanity is wiped out, not by accident or arbitrary choice, but as part of a meticulous and precise judgment. The impact is immediate and overwhelming. All over the world, people succumb to the power of these angels, who act with almost surgical precision. There is no refuge, no escape for those who fall under the reach of their wrath. This is not a simple act of destruction, but an execution of justice, a fulfillment of the prophecies that warned of the day when God's patience would run out and His judgment would fall upon the earth. What makes this event even more terrifying is its inevitability. These angels are not influenced by human emotions. They are not driven by mercy or compassion. They carry out their mission with a frightening impartiality, demonstrating that God's judgment is both just and inescapable. For those who survive, the world will never be the same. The loss of a third of humanity leaves an indelible scar, a constant reminder of the seriousness of divine judgment and the reality of the end times. The silence that follows the devastation is a testimony to the magnitude of what has just occurred, a silence that echoes the relentless precision with which these angels carried out their task. And so, with the release of these angels of destruction, the world inexorably moves toward its final destiny. Every step, every event, every death, is a part of the greater plan unfolding before everyone's eyes. There is no longer any doubt about the seriousness of the times ahead, and the earth, already marked by spiritual warfare and the torment of demons, now also bears the weight of the angels' judgment. The Euphrates River, now emptied and devoid of its waters, stands as a powerful and resonant symbol of what has been and what is to come. while its dry banks bear witness to the destruction unleashed by the four angels. The significance of the Euphrates goes far beyond this moment of judgment. It carries with it a heritage that spans millennia, a deep connection that unites the beginning of humanity with its prophesied end. From the earliest days of creation, the Euphrates has served as a dividing line, not only in a geographical sense but also in a spiritual one. In the Garden of Eden, it flowed as one of the four great rivers, marking the abundance and perfection of divine creation. It was a time when man and God walked together, where innocence and purity dominated the human heart. But as the centuries passed, the Euphrates also became a witness to man's fall, to the corruption that spread across the earth, and to the many empires that rose and fell along its banks. Babylon, Assyria, Persia. All these great kingdoms touched its waters, and each, in its own time, faced God's judgment. The Euphrates, therefore, is more than just a river. It is a spiritual boundary that separates the sacred from the profane, the old from the new, and the temporal from the eternal. When the Euphrates dries up, as described in Revelation, it is not just a physical event but the removal of this spiritual barrier. It is as if the final veil has been lifted, revealing the stark truth of the judgment that is unfolding. The drying up of the Euphrates and the subsequent release of the angels of destruction mark the conclusion of a narrative that began in Eden and is now approaching its climax in Revelation. The river that once brought life and sustenance now becomes the channel for divine justice. It connects the beginning of time with its end, linking the stories of all those who walked along its banks throughout biblical history. For those who understand this historical and spiritual significance, the Euphrates represents both a warning and a promise. It is a reminder that God has been present in every phase of history, guiding, judging, and redeeming. And as the end times unfold, the Euphrates, in its desolate stillness, remains a monument to the continuity of the divine plan, a plan that is about to reach its final consummation. With the Euphrates now dry, the last spiritual boundary has been crossed, and the world moves unimpeded toward the final judgment, where the fate of all creation will be ultimately sealed.